So Apple released new iPads and you are here because you want to draw on iPad, most probably in Procreate, but you are not sure which iPad to get, and I hear you. I have tried them all, so I can help you decide, and I'm keeping things simple and focusing on what matters for us illustrators, digital artists, and other creative folks. So as you can see, I have 4 new iPads and we have the new Apple Pencil Pro along with a ton of technical specifications which can make buying a new iPad feel like navigating a maze. Confusing and potentially quite expensive, so I am here to help you guide you through. And rather than getting lost in technical specifications, I want to focus on what really matters for creatives and Procreate users, because it's like picking the right paintbrush, which Apple Pencil now doesn't get too far from the actual paintbrush, so you don't need to know how it's manufactured, just how it will work for your art. And I also put together a value recommendation chart, which you can check out later. And if you have any questions, you can drop them below in the comments. And of course, I will also include all the links about these iPads in the description as well, so you can get them and enjoy them too. And here is a quick overview, something like a quick lightning round, before we dive into details on each of these iPads one by one. So all of the iPads will run the same apps, if you are wondering about that, and all of them now have the USB-C and now support the Apple Pencil Pro. So in this lineup, we have the 2 new iPad Air and 2 new iPad Pro. And we have the iPad Pro 11 and then we have the iPad Pro 13. And both of these come with the twin OLED display and M4 chip. And what is more, there is also the new Nano-texture display. And then we have the 2 new iPad Air, which is 11 and the 13, and both of these have the M2 chip and now also new storage options to choose from. And before we look at each of these iPads one by one in more detail, if you are new around here, hi, I am Eva and I am a full-time artist and illustrator. And I switched from Wacom and Photoshop, which I've used before. And now I use Procreate for almost all the projects. So I get the question which iPad is best for Procreate quite often because most of my content is about iPad and Procreate. And I use iPad and Procreate to do personal and client work as well. And I create tutorials and classes and also Procreate brushes. So you can play around with emulating watercolor brushes in Procreate and create artworks like this, or gouache brushes and so on. Alright, and now let's dive into all the details about each of these iPads separately. And for me as an artist, the key decision-making criteria for choosing the best iPad for Procreate are these: screen size and working space, then weight and portability of the iPad, number of Procreate layers and Procreate Dreams tracks, Apple Pencil features, Nano-texture, and budget. So now let's talk about each of these iPads based on these factors to help you make the best decision. So first, let's look at the new iPad Air. You might want to get the new iPad Air with the M2 chip if you are looking for the best value iPad for drawing in Procreate and the other apps, because it's perfect if you are upgrading from the previous model and you don't have the budget for the iPad Pro. So shall we start with the drawbacks first and then move to the positives? So first of all, the new iPad Air, it's not compatible with the older Apple Pencil 2, which I get because this new Apple Pencil Pro has all these new cool features, but Apple Pencil 2 is already pretty awesome, so it's quite a shame that you can't use the older Apple Pencil 2 with these new iPad Pro and iPad Air. Then they are slightly less powerful than the latest iPad Pro with M4 chip. However, that will affect you only if you want to do like 3D animation and video editing on your iPad. Also, it has the less fancy, just LED display, which is good for the indoor use, but not as bright as the twin OLED, which iPad Pro has, which is better for the outdoor use. When you are indoors, it's harder to see the difference in color and brightness when you have them next to each other. And you can notice the nano-texture and the difference in the screen with the direct sunshine more under certain angles. And now to the positives. Because what I'm quite excited about is the price difference and also the options to choose from the two different sizes, which is 11 inches and the 13 inches. And also the new iPad Air features the M2 processor, previously found in the 2022 iPad Pro, providing the amazing power for tasks like drawing and animation. And despite the older technology, I haven't noticed any significant impact on the drawing experience, and the display is still bright and renders colors beautifully. Also, we have the more storage options to choose from, specifically 128 GB to 1 TB. Then we also have the Apple Pencil Pro with now so-called squeeze functionality. Then there is the context-sensitive menus, barrel roll, and hover over function. The next thing that also changed is the placement of the camera, because now it's on the landscape side of the iPad. And what about the layers in Procreate while using the new iPad Air? Well, with 3000 by 3000 pixels and 300 dpi, you will get 112 layers. And yes, that's for both sizes, iPad Air 13 and iPad Air 11. So I think that the iPad Air is filling the gap between the entry-level iPad for Procreate and then iPad Pro, which is more geared toward the creative professionals, because it offers the pro-level features at the mid-range price point, and I consider the new iPad best iPad value for Procreate from the current lineup, because I think it's offering amazing value for money for most creatives, and if I had to buy a new iPad today, I would go for this one. And now let's move on to the iPad Pro models. I have here the iPad Pro 11 and iPad Pro 13. This one is without the nano-texture and this one is with the nano-texture. And otherwise, the technical specifications are the same. So one of the first things that I noticed about the bigger size, the 13-inch, is that compared to my old iPad Pro 12.9, is much lighter, because it actually weighs 100 grams less and it's also thinner. And it's actually even lighter than the new iPad Air. And I could really feel the difference when I was drawing on it, and especially if you want to draw and hold the iPad in one hand. And as we are already quite used to, the Pro models are Apple's flagship models, and they are packed with the best technology they have and the highest price point. So overall, drawing in Procreate on the Pro models is just amazing, and drawing is really smooth because the brushes behave super well, there is no lag, the colors render super nicely, and overall it's a very nice experience. Also, for other tasks, not just illustration, also the animation, video editing, 3D modeling, the new iPad Pro can handle it all. And what I mean by that is that the iPad Pro can handle extensive professional work. So I think the main drawback of the new iPad Pro models is similar to the iPad Air models, because it doesn't support the Apple Pencil 2 and you will have to invest into the new Apple Pencil Pro. But I think if your budget allows to get the iPad Pro, getting the new Apple Pencil Pro should not be an issue. And now let me mention some features which didn't exist in the iPad Pro 6 and 5. So first of all, as I mentioned, now there is the new 13-inch iPad Pro size. Then now we also have the new twin OLED display with Nano-texture option. There is also the new M4 chip, which is the most powerful Apple chip now. The other thing now is that you can't choose 128GB storage anymore. Other new fun feature you can look forward to is the new Apple Pencil Pro with the so-called squeeze feature functionality for the context-sensitive menus, barrel roll brushes, and hover over function. Another change is that the camera moved to the side of the iPad, so you can now have calls in the landscape orientation of the iPad. And now let's talk a bit about the Nano-texture. So what is the Nano-texture? And when I watched the new iPad release event, I thought that the new Nano-texture is the replacement kind of for the screen protectors, like paper-like, so you can have that feeling of drawing on the paper. However, after I tested the Nano-texture, I found out it's something completely different, and this video is already quite long, so I will prepare another video with this topic and I will link it here, so you should find it somewhere here when it's ready, and of course also in the description. So at the price point, as a reminder, the Nano-texture is only available for iPad Pro with 1TB and 2TB storage. And what are the kind of the biggest or most noticeable advantages of the Nano-texture? Well, it's that the reflective surface is quite different from the other models because there is barely any reflection. So I think the iPad with the Nano-texture is perfect for drawing outside or in a studio with a lot of light where you can consider definitely less reflection on your iPad, and the colors I think are very vivid and render very nicely. So if you're an artist or a creative working a lot outdoors with very bright conditions, I think this Nano-texture might be a great solution for you. Just don't forget that this type of texture requires special cleaning and cloth and also special care. And if you are wondering about the layers, the number of layers depends on the RAM and the storage. Only 1TB and 2TB iPad Pros have 16GB of RAM, which gives you the highest number of layers. All the other storage options have either 8GB RAM or 4GB RAM, depending on the iPad models. And let's quickly talk about the new Apple Pencil Pro as well. So if you get any of the new iPads for Procreate and for drawing, you will also have to get the new Apple Pencil Pro. And you could technically also use the new Apple Pencil USB-C, but you are kind of missing out on the key features for drawing. And as you can see, the new Apple Pencil Pro, I think, is kind of have the same design as the older Apple Pencil 2, and if there was not Pro written on it, I would totally mistake it for my Apple Pencil 2. So yeah, I think the look is kind of the same. So how is the new Apple Pencil Pro different from the Apple Pencil 2? So they both come with the industry best drawing features, which is the pressure sensitivity, the tilt support, palm rejection on the screen, best storing and charging experience with automatic pairing and also magnetic charging. And they also both have the hover over function, which Apple introduced in 2022. But now the new Apple Pencil Pro has the new features like the barrel roll, squeeze, and the haptic feedback, which provide a new drawing experience. So what does it mean for artists? Now you have more options to set up your favorite shortcuts because you still have the tap function, which you can use, and then you can set up your favorite shortcut to the squeeze function as well. And then you also have the barrel roll feature, which also makes it super easy to change the direction of the brushes, which wasn't available before. And I plan to make another video about this feature and more how you can use it. So make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss the new video. And what if you are a complete beginner and you are not sure how often you will use the iPad, or you are more in the budget? So as you saw in my previous iPad review video, there is the iPad 10 option, which is still available, and I would definitely recommend it to someone who doesn't know maybe how often they will use their iPad, or they have smaller budget. And I think it's a good option for beginners, especially because after Apple discontinued the iPad Generation 9, the price of the Generation 10 dropped too, so making it even more affordable. And what about the Apple Pencil for this model? Well, iPad 10 supports the Apple Pencil 1 and Apple Pencil USB-C, which I don't really recommend for drawing, but it's still an option. And what about the layers with this model? With the canvas size 3000 by 3000 pixels and 300 dpi, you will get 55 layers. And there is also an option for you to get the iPad mini, because that one is still available too, which is the 6th generation of the iPad mini, which I would recommend as a secondary iPad, which you can use on the go, or as your main iPad for drawing if you like small sketchbooks especially. Because despite its small size, it's pretty amazing iPad, and with that model you can also use the Apple Pencil too. And what if you want to get some of the older iPads for Procreate? Then consider refurbished models. Because there are all of these new cool models for Procreate, but if you are just starting out and you are not sure how much you will actually use your iPad, getting refurbished model may be a very good option for you. But please always remember to check the warranty before buying. And I also did some research on these refurbished iPad models for you, and I included the links in the description so you can find it there. So there are a lot of options to choose from and a lot of details to think about. So let's summarize what we talked about until now. So we have the new iPad Pro models with the M4 chip and the new twin OLED displays, and these are perfect for the art studios, professional artists and illustrators. And if you have the budget for the best, why not to get the best? Then there is also the Nano-texture for the iPad Pro, which you can choose, which is great for professional artists working a lot outside and also in a very brightly lit studios. And then here on the other side, we have the iPad Air models with the M2 chip, and I think they are great value for artists of all levels. And then the other option that you have is the iPad 10, which is perfect for artists on the budget and for the artist beginners who are not sure how often they will use their iPad for drawing. And then you have the iPad mini option, which is perfect for artists who want something small, like a small sketchbook, which is also portable, or as a secondary iPad for Procreate and drawing. So please let me know in the comments which of these or the other iPads you would choose. I would love to know, and I'm sure others reading the comments would love to know too. And if you know someone who would find this video helpful, please share it with them. And thank you so much for watching, and for more inspiration you can watch my sketchbook videos here. So see you there. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!